Let's have a frank discussion about Trojan horses. See, energetically and spiritually, a human being must provide or utilize their free will to act upon something. So when an outside experience or person or event, something needs to impact that person, they have to first bypass the person's free will. Essentially, they have to, at some level of their being, get permission from the human being. This is a universe where free will has to be accessed in order for someone to act towards, against, with another person. Now, I know this gets entangled at certain layers, and there's other explanations for some of the scenarios. But let's keep this contained to what is happening currently in the world today. We'll discuss those other scenarios at other times. So what takes place is the human being, let's say on the top step, gets presented with a situation that has the potential to cause an emotional reaction within them. So once they answer or give the response of an emotional reaction towards something, towards a person, towards an event, towards an idea, towards a concept, the minute they engage their emotions, they've engaged and they've given permission for that now to become a part of their life. Emotions are pretty much, you can say, part of the fourth dimension if you want to give them placement, or the next realm that's invisible. You can't really see an emotion. It can't stand on its own as an object. So what happens is this: the person has an emotional response. Straight away permission is given, and then a solution is offered, because now the person's interacted, they've emotionally responded, they've bought in. Let's say they've bought in with the emotions. The person accepts the solution, so they give permission, they hand over their free will. Okay, I will accept the solution. Now, the next step down and the next layer to this, hidden to the person who has given their free will and given their permission, is that hidden in the solution is a deception. It's a Decepticon, if you want to use that wonderful word. In the deception is a payload. Now, we've always known through the years that in order to help cells heal, you can take a concoction of, and it's a little small teaspoonful, of bicarb mixed with honey. Why? Because the honey tricks the cell, the cancerous cell, to ingest it, to receive it. But the bicarb then makes its entry into the ill cell, the diseased cell, and it terminates that disease. So it's this hidden payload that goes in and sorts out sick cells. But the reverse is also true in duality. So at the next layer of this, once the person's allowed and given their free will and given permission, this Decepticon, this payload that has now been orchestrated and designed by those that wish to deceive, that's received into the human body. And once that's received into the human body, the opposite effect takes place. It's coated in a biological product, but inside this biological product, and I'm sure there's all these like biological medical terms, I don't know what they are. Inside of this is now the opposite. It's not the solution to sorting an ill cell. It's now the solution to harming a healthy cell. And in this case, the Decepticon is technology that's hidden within a solution that now gets ingested in the human body. So the person's given permission, they've taken a solution, but the solution is a deception. Now, no one's going to cry tears because they were tricked. It is fair game in a universe of duality, which means if you give permission, you give permission. If you allow them to utilize your free will and you react and you respond, then you have reacted and responded. No one is going to come and save you from your own decisions and from you giving permission. What they are banking on, usually ones who want to deceive, they are banking on your ignorance. So what is ignorance? It's not meant to be a judgmental or negative term. It's meant to mean you don't know enough. You know too little, or you've been hidden from the true knowledge of what's going on. So ignorance is just, you don't know. Now they're banking on you don't know, so that you give permission. And how do you give permission? You react strongly with your emotions. Now, so let's rewind this to that beginning part where you give permission because you've reacted with your emotions. How the Decepticons stir your emotion and get you to react doesn't really matter. If they can get you to react out of happiness, they've got you to react. If they can get you to react out of fear, they've gotten you to react. That's all that's needed. Access to your emotions. That's what they need. So how do they do that? Well, you've got to send out a message of a global pandemic, of fear, of something's coming, your future's threatened, you won't be able to travel, you won't be able to access your money, you cannot eat food. There's all these messages going out. You're at threat, you're at risk, especially if you're older than a certain age. You're at threat. Now what's happened is through ignorance, through people not really knowing what's going on, there's been an emotional reaction to what's going on. So straight away they're given permission. So then the solution comes. Don't worry, we'll help you sort this out and allay your fears, make you feel better, save your life. We will confirm your future and make sure that everything's okay. So you take the inoculation. You think now you're saved. You think now you're going to be okay. Now it leaves your anxiety. You feel better. You actually get the feeling of feeling free because now you're free to travel. You're free to do these things. But now let's go to the next layer. What's entered into the body is a Decepticon. The Decepticon is very interesting. Because of human consciousness, we don't actually know how this is going to impact from individual to individual. And we're seeing this already coming forward in the results. Different people are reacting different ways. Some people are reacting by dying. Some people are reacting by breaking out in all sorts of lumps and bumps. Some people, we know there's a lot of bleeding or clotting involved. Some people are feeling off their head, hair loss. There's just so many results because individual consciousness responds in different ways. Now here's where it gets really insidious and really interesting, because even that layer of that Trojan horse of deception is not the end game. So now in order to have a look at the end game, let's drop even one step lower, hidden in the deeper shadows of darkness. The payload that's been placed inside the human body is not just something that organically and biologically harms the organism. If it was of that nature, the immune system and the consciousness of the person would stand a fighting chance to sort it out, eradicate it, pass it out of the body, and do those kind of natural evolutionary things. This is not of that nature. This is foreign to the body. The body, is trying very hard now. Once it's realized that this deception's taken place, the body's now reacting. It's on full alert and going, we need to get rid of this deception. So how do we do it? Well, we've got to work according to the program that we have. send the immune cells. You can do a lot of study on the spike proteins and how the immune system of the body works. So now we rush to go and deal with this. And in the rushing to deal with this, it's like having something and you light a fire to try and deal with it. But you send 30 cannonballs of fire towards something so small that eventually you burn the house down. This is the effect of what's happening. We're using bazookas to take care of a tiny thing. The body's reacting that way. So at this very deeper third layer, we discovered now this is not an organic substance that's been deceivedly put into the body. This is now something that's made of technology. Now, why this changes the game is that it's working on Wi-Fi, this microscopic, absolutely tiny piece of patented technology works with Wi-Fi. Now, I want you to have, for a moment, look at the world around you, all the cell phones that are always surrounding you, your own Wi-Fi in your own house, the cell phone towers, being in a mall, just wherever you go, it's Wi-Fi, 5G, 4G, and all those things. So in other words, now, this piece of technology that's been inserted into your body as a deception is now connected to the outside world, that the outside wireless systems can now impact parts of your body, and your immune system is scrambling to deal with this foreign deception in it, but can't organically get rid of it in the ways that it would normally sort out a virus or an infection. It can't deal with it. So because it can't deal with it the same way, it's overproducing. It's the fire analogy. It's using a lot of firepower to deal with this, and it's burning the internal house down. It's killing the person who receives the deception, or it's certainly impacting the person who receives the deception. So the story of the Trojan horse being allowed into the city of Troy, unfortunately, is what every human is looking at in terms of the inoculation. And because humans in their ignorance, and innocence is the other word, in their ignorance or innocence, honestly have believed that the world is working towards them, for them, that their governments, medical people of all sorts of natures, lawful people, the courts, every structure of humanity, people believe is tipping towards benevolence and working for them, that it's very difficult for people to grasp and get over that ignorant innocence hurdle to wake up. And that's what the awakening up is not being so innocent or so ignorant that you don't want to know what's happening. So the awakening is that people allow their consciousness to learn more. It's very frightening for some people to learn more, so that they are not innocently ignorant anymore, so that they are not giving permission, they are not utilizing their free will, so that the deceptions can take place. So why we need people to wake up is to stop the deceptions that are taking place. Unfortunately, there's a race towards the finish line in terms of ignorantly innocent people receiving the deception, and those that are wakening up and saying no. And this is the finishing line that we are moving towards, and the horses that we are all on. Now, the interesting thing about consciousness is consciousness still trumps technology, and consciousness will always trump technology. So the minute we can spread conscious awakening to everybody, we can start to see people using their free will correctly. And honestly, the innocently ignorant people need to stop reacting to the threats of their governments, of their medical people, the pharmaceuticals, to corrupt politicians, to all the layers that have themselves accepted the deception. You know, it doesn't matter whether someone of the higher ranking administrative level doesn't receive the inoculation, and 10 to 1 they're not going to, because they know what it's going to do. But it does matter that they've still accepted the deception because they're going along with it. They are part of the construction of the Trojan horse. They don't get away with it. They may get away with the technology not impacting their cells, but on a consciousness level, they're not going to actually get away with it. They've aligned with this deception. And whether you perpetrated the deception or have aligned with the deception, it doesn't matter how much gold they've offered you and how lined your coffers are. It doesn't matter how much you have in the bank. There is a reckoning for deceptors. Remember that.